I remember a quote by Krishnamurthy. One is never afraid of the unknown. One is afraid of the known coming to an end. One is never afraid of the unknown. One is afraid of the known coming to an end. What is this fear of unknown? Please explain more about it.
Who is it who wants to know? Who in us wants to know? And why it wants to know? What does it get by knowing? Why it cannot be without knowing? Why it feels that knowing is a compulsory thing? Why it feels unstable, unsettled, disturbed without knowing? Why it needs something to know in order to settle down? This is something we need to heed. Let's ask this question. Who in us wants to know? Because only that can have fear. And if we can figure out why it wants to know at the first place, then we can also figure out why it has fear. Why it has fear when whatever that it knows comes to an end. The fear is not of unknown. The fear is neither of known coming to an end. The fear is of the knower coming to an end. And who is this knower in us? Why this knower is so much dependent on the known in order to exist itself? Why it cares so much about known not coming to an end? It cares so much, and that is why it has fear. One thing is very clear, that Whoever in us is the knower. Its existence is dependent on the known. And when the known is about to end, then it feels that it itself is about to end. When the known is about to end, it feels that the knower is about to end. Who is this knower? This knower cannot be the body, isn't it?
Yes.
Can this knower be our real self or the consciousness?
Uh, I think no.
It cannot be, because what is consciousness is not dependent on anything for its own existence. If it is, then it is not consciousness. Consciousness is what everything else is dependent on. It itself is not dependent on anything. So, this knower in us is neither our body nor our consciousness. It is our mind. It is our ego. Ego cannot live without knowing. Ego cannot live without gathering. Ego cannot live without data. A child has hardly any ego. And the reason is that he has no data now. It is not the greatness of that child. He is egoless not because he is mature. He is egoless simply because he cannot be egoistic, because to be egoistic you need data, you need identities. What you know is your data. That's why when you visit a new place where you have never been, you cannot be egoistic there because you do not have any data there of that place. You don't have any clue of the place. You are like a child in that city. Ego wants to know not because it is curious. Ego wants to know because without enough knowing, it feels hollow. It feels empty. It feels useless. It has to know, and it has to know a lot. Without knowledge, ego cannot sustain. And more a knowledgeable a person is, the chances are that he will be very egoistic. Who else has bigger egos than intellectuals? More the data, more the ego. But the moment ego notices that all that it knows is not truth, all that it knows is not the reality, then it has fear. Because all that it knew was the foundation of it. It was the platform on which it was standing, walking, dancing. But suddenly, when the platform starts shaking, then the dancer starts collapsing. Then it can no more walk. Fear is not of platform collapsing. Fear is the dancer collapsing. One who built the platform. Otherwise, if the platform is collapsing and one who built it is not on the platform, walking and dancing, then it will not have that amount of fear. The problem is ego gains knowledge, gathers informations, builds a strong platform, and on that it dances. The fear is not that the platform will collapse. The fear is that the dance will end. The fear is not that whatever that I had gathered is going to be proven false. The fear is that all these things that I had gathered were the foundation of my identity, that were the foundation of my name, fame, respect, honor. And when the foundation is collapsing, then I will also collapse. The fear is not about unknown. Fear is neither of known coming to an end. The fear is the knower coming to an end. Knower cannot stand without knowledge. It needs knowledge, it needs data. This is the actual fear, the knower coming to an end. And this knower is the ego in us. when the ego is about to end, then whatever it had built, that will also end. It will lose its imaginary world, artificial world, fake world that it had created in the minds of people. Its image, its name, its fame, its lies, everything. Otherwise, what you have got to do with what you know? If known is coming to an end, then what is the problem? If you had discovered that the smallest thing is atom, and if the next person discovers no, there is further division possible, that is electron, proton, neutron, then what is the problem? Isn't it a good thing? It is a progression. You think your principle is collapsing. But then what is the problem if your principle, if your theory is collapsing? It is good, a new theory will come. But why are you collapsing? Because you used that principle, that theory to heighten your ego. Otherwise, what is the problem? Somebody else came and told, no, there are further divisions possible. It is not just electron, proton, neutron. There are subatomic particles. What is the problem if what you know comes to an end? What you have to do with whether the known comes to an end or not. Why you feel so much of compulsion in knowing at the first place? What does a tree know? What does that innocent leaf of that small tree under the deep forest know? What does rivers know? How many theories do rivers know? Are they bothered about knowing? Who in us feels this compulsion of knowing? This is our ego. It wants to know not because it is on a mission of discovering, inventing something. It wants to know because it wants to heighten itself. And more it knows, higher it can claim of itself, more it can boast of itself. Stronger it will feel. This is the fear of the knower coming to an end, when the known is coming to an end. And this knower must come to an end because it is a false knower. It must come to an end because it doesn't want to know at the first place. It is trying to know only to sustain itself. It is not trying to know in order to actually know something, figure out something, discover something. It wants to use its knowledge to feel superior in the world. And when its knowledge is coming to an end, then its superiority complex, its dominance is coming to an end. The fear is of this, my dominance coming to an end, my superiority coming to an end. It is not the real knower. One who is the real knower in us knows all beforehand. It knows both the extremes of infinity, even before the infinity. It knows yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and what was before yesterday and what will be after tomorrow. The real knower in us is not our ego, it is our consciousness. And this consciousness knows everything beforehand. This consciousness has its existence on its own will. It is not dependent on anything to exist. And because it is not dependent on anything to exist, thus it has no compulsion to do, to know, to learn, to move. And because it has no compulsion, it cannot have fear. It is stable, still, all the time, irrespective of all the storms and the weathers and the tides, irrespective of ups and downs in the time and space. This consciousness is the real knower. It has no fear ever. One who has fear is our ego. It comes to an end when what it knows is coming to an end.